Hello, this is Claus Jensen presenting Game 5 of the 2012 World Chess Championship match between Anand and Gelfand, and this game ended only a few minutes ago. And so far in the match, both players have opened one d4, and we have had two Grinfelds from Gelfand and two Semislavs from Anand. Is today going to be any different? Well, Anand is white, Gelfand is black, and Game 5 actually starts 1e4. And yeah, finally we have a 1e4 game. Gelfand doesn't play the Petroff, he plays c5, the Sicilian. And we have knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes, knight f6, knight c3, e5. And Gelfand plays the Sveshnikov system, which is a system with many forced lines and therefore fairly easy to make preparations in this system. Knight d to b5, d6, bishop g5, a6, knight a3, b5. And one main line here is bishop takes f6, g takes, knight d5 and f5. But the other main line is the move that Anand chose here, knight d5, bishop e7, bishop takes, c4, b4, knight c2, and now Gelfand castles. And is this a pawn sack? Well, it actually isn't, because knight takes, knight takes, queen b6, queen b3, rook b8, knight d5, and then queen takes, and knight takes, a takes, and rook takes. And this is an example of some of the many forced lines in this opening, and white doesn't have anything here. So instead Anand played g3 here, preparing to develop his bishop on the king side. Could also have played h4 first. We come back to that later. a5 from Gelfand defends the pawn on b4. And this is the main line, but an option was perhaps to activate the bishop immediately, bishop g5. And after h4, bishop h6. This is a nice diagonal for the otherwise weak bishop for Gelfand here, because his central pawns are on dark squares. But he decided a5 first. And again, Anand could have played h4 here, preventing bishop g5. But and another alternative was simply to take the bishop, but this seems anti-positional, because there's no need to trade a good knight for the black problem bishop. Queen takes, knight e3, knight d4, bishop g2, bishop e6, castles, rook fc8, and this is absolutely fine for black. So this would not be an option. Bishop g2 was the move that Anand played, and this of course still leaves this bishop g5 option for Gelfand possible, and this is what Gelfand did play here. Bishop g5, castles, bishop e6, and now it might seem logical to play knight ce3, but again we don't want to give up a knight for this bishop. So bishop takes e3, knight takes, and knight d4, and again this is satisfactory for black. So in this position Anand played queen d3, and now came a move that was very surprising to me, and I think to others as well. Bishop takes d5. Now Gelfand gives up his good bishop in exchange for a closing down of the important d5 square, and Gelfand played it almost instantly, so he must have been it must have been prepared. Very interesting, and it changes the nature of the position. First decision for Anand is now how to recapture on d5, and e takes d5 looks more risky and could give black some initiative with moves like f5, e4, making better squares available for the black pieces. A knight could go to e5, and the bishop could go back to f6. So Anand captured with the c pawn, and now came almost instantly once again knight b8. And this knight is probably going to c5. And the interesting question now is what Anand plans to do. Should be interesting to follow. A3. One idea was perhaps F4. Very aggressive move, but E takes, G takes, and now black has bishop F6, and this looks, although white has an impressive center, his position is a bit overstretched, I think. So bishop F6, and now Gelfand is perfectly okay. Instead, Anand played A3, trying to open the A file, and knight A6. And still, Gelfand almost blitzes his moves. He has spent no more than 15 minutes on the first 18 moves. But it's not that Anand doesn't move fast. He does. At this point, he has spent just over 20 minutes. A takes B4, knight takes, and A takes. And okay, Anand has eliminated this knight C5 plan, but now we have bad bishop versus bad bishop, and they are of opposite color too. So who, if any, is better here? H4 from Anand. At last Anand puts question to this bishop, and relatively active bishop H6 is one possibility, or the more passive bishop E7. And bishop H6 also makes a later G6 and bishop G7 possible. So of course Gelfand chose bishop H6, which must be the right decision. And another point of importance is that from here it controls the C1 square, which prevents ideas like rook C1, rook C6 from white, because he has no access to the C1 square. But still, I can't help thinking that white must be better here. He has a target in the B4 pawn, and his bishop could go F1, B5, C6 to come in front of the pawn chain. And there was this idea of activating the bishop, but Anand did it in a much more clever way, I think. He simply played bishop H3, and of course this is another way to activate the bishop and possibly win the A file. So the threat now is rook takes A8, queen takes A8, bishop G7 followed by bishop C6. And here Gelfand has his first longer think in the game, and after 50 minutes he played queen B6, which then sent Anand in the box. He also spent about 15 minutes before he decided to go for bishop G7, which must have been the plan all the way. And now there are many possibilities for Gelfand. He could play G6, for example, planning F5. So if bishop C6, rook takes, F5, E takes, rook takes, and definitely black has counterplay here. But he chose another interesting move, B3, bishop C6, rook A2. This is almost forcing rook takes A2, B takes A, queen A3, rook B8, and queen takes A2. And in this position, where the B pawn will also fall at some point, the players agreed on a draw. So we are still waiting for someone to break the deadlock. But at least we had a different opening today. But still, both players does seem to have problems getting out of each other's preparation. But still, for Gelfand, it must have been very pleasing to escape so easily, or relatively easily, with a draw against Anand's 1e4. And we can notice that this game lasted no more than 1 hour 45 minutes, and that's not much for a World Championship game. So this was an easy draw for Gelfand. Thanks for watching this video. See you on my chess website at klausjensen.com. Bye bye for now.